In the part 2 of 2.5 vector algebra, addition and subtraction of vectors, we will learn about two methods of addition of vectors. What are the methods? Number 1, addition of two vectors, and number 2, addition of more than two vectors. Now coming to the first point, which is addition of two vectors, we get, suppose you are here at point A. You have traveled to point B from A, and then to the point C from point B. Now, if we think of these two displacements, what is your total displacement? Suppose A point is your home and B point is your school. C point is a shop. You first travel to your school from home and then travel to shop from school. So if we add these two vectors, or if we sum up this displacement, what do we see? You travel from your home to the shop. This is the basic of addition of two vectors. Now we will go to the rule. Now let us see the method of addition of two vectors. In case of addition of two vectors, tail of second vector is placed at the head of first vector. Suppose A, B. AB is the first vector and this is the head of the first vector. So in case of addition of two vectors, tail of second vector is placed at the head of first vector. So at the head of first vector, the tail of second vector, which is BC, is placed. Tail of second vector, head of first vector, and the tail of the first vector, which is at the point A, tail of first vector, and the head of the second vector, which is at the point C, head of second vector, is connected by a straight line, which is AC. Now, length of the straight line denotes the magnitude of the resultant. So we can see AC is the resultant of the two vectors, which is AB and BC. And the direction of the resultant would be from the tail of the first vector, which is the point A, to the head of the second vector, which is at point C. So from A to C, this is the direction of the resultant. So summarizing in easy language, we get, if A is your home and B is your school and C is your shop, then we get your first vector is your displacement from your home to school, and your second vector is your displacement from school to shop. So at the end of the day, from where to where you traveled? From home to shop. This is the ultimate displacement. So this is the resultant. This method of adding two vectors is also called triangle law of vector addition. Now coming to our second type of addition, which is addition of more than two vectors, we get when there are many vectors to be added. Suppose we have these 5 vectors, we need to add these vectors. At first, any one of the vectors is drawn. So we draw the number 1 of these vectors and give the name to AB. After that, the other vectors are to be drawn in the same order and in such a way that the tail of a vector places at the head of the previous vector. Okay, now in case of number 2, its tail will fit to the head of the previous vector, which is AB. So this is the second vector, and this is the third vector, this is the fourth vector, this is the fifth vector. Now, what is the resultant? We put all the 5 vectors according to the method of addition of more than two vectors. Then the straight line is drawn by adding the tail of the first vector and the head of the last vector. This is the head of the last vector and this is the tail of the first vector. So we join these 2 points and the head of the last vector. The length of the straight line denotes the magnitude of the resultant. So this line AF. Its length denotes the magnitude of the resultant. And the direction of the resultant would be from the tail of the first vector, which is at point A, to the head of the last vector, which is at point F. So the direction would be from A to F. So the vector is AF from A to F, arrow mark. Now, to this point, you all are saying that this method of addition is the same as the last method of addition. That's absolutely correct. So we say A is the position of your home. From home, you travel to your school. From school, you travel to a shopping center. From shopping center, you travel to a neighborhood. And from neighborhood, you travel to a police station. And from police station, you travel to a park. So, at the end of the day, from where to where you traveled? You traveled from home to the park. At the end of the day, this is the displacement that you have got. So we can say addition of more than two vectors is like a corollary of addition of two vectors. It is not that much different from addition of two vectors. And likewise, when we use four vectors, 1, 2, 3, 4 vectors, and the fifth side is the resultant, then this forms a polygon. So we say this is the law of polygon. This is also a corollary of addition of two vectors, nothing different. So in this lecture we learned about the process of addition of two vectors. Again, I am saying that you can add a force with a force, displacement with displacement, but you can never add two vectors which are not of the same kind. You can never do that. You can add a cow with a cow, a goat with a goat, but you can never add a cow with a goat. So this is the system of vector addition. In the next class, we will move on to the subtraction of vectors.